Welcome to Hardwood Handicappers with Zach Cohen, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Zachary Cohen, VSiN.com senior editor with another episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Today is Monday, January 19th. We are recording this at 8:40 a.m. Eastern. Today is Martin Luther King Day, so that means that among many other things that there is some day basketball on for today. So we will get into this loaded slate, which starts very, very soon. We have some games at 1 p.m. Eastern. So we definitely don't want to waste too much time recapping stuff from over the weekend, but I did think it was worth mentioning a few things, and I do want to start with the fact that Kawhi Leonard is out with another knee injury. They have swelling in the knee. The Clippers sent him home from their road trip to go get more treatment in Los Angeles, and this is the type of thing that they're saying is 2 or 3 games, but man, you really can't ever trust this Los Angeles team, and with Kawhi specifically, when he has swelling in that knee, it can last, 3 days, it could last 3 months. So I just think it's something really worth monitoring over the next couple of weeks because this guy was playing some lights out basketball. And, this Clippers team has kind of gotten right back into the hunt in the Western Conference. As of today, they are tied with the Memphis Grizzlies for the 10th spot in the Western Conference, which means that they would be, right there in terms of a play-in tournament spot. And this is a team that I do think if they get into that play-in tournament would have a great shot of emerging with one of those 2 slots. And it's just, really unfortunate timing for the Clippers, but unfortunate timing has kind of been, the story of this team for the last, 5 to 10 years. So it's just nothing new, but you do hope to see Kawhi back soon. And I do think that was the biggest bit of news that we saw over the course of the weekend. Outside of that, it was, Ja Morant going off in a London game yesterday where the Grizzlies absolutely pounded the Magic. And after the game, and despite everything that you've heard for the last, 3 months, like Ja Morant said that he would like to stay in Memphis and that, he has a Grizzlies tattoo on his back and he's a loyal guy. So I don't know what to make of that. Like it could just be all hearsay and he's just trying to sound good on the way out. But man, they did look really good yesterday. And I've been really high on this team's roster construction compared to most, all year. That's why I took the over on 39.5 wins this season. And they obviously haven't been healthy. They still haven't seen what the team looks like with Ty Jerome, Scottie Pippen Jr., and pretty much Zach Edey, who hasn't played a lot of games this year. But I do wonder what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. If they can't get a great trade for Morant, maybe they hold on to him. If him and Isolas can figure out a way to kind of work together. Like you can't have a coach being completely undermined by a player all the time, but at the same time, it's a great player that if he's healthy can help them. And if you can't get a good trade for him, maybe it's worth just holding on to him. But man, yeah, it was a little confusing to see him saying that he's loyal and wants to stay in Memphis. I did not expect that. And then, something else we saw over the weekend was a 55-point performance from Anthony Edwards in a loss to the Spurs, where I think that you kind of saw everything about the Timberwolves that makes them both special, but also shaky at the same time. It was a 126-123 loss where Edwards did absolutely everything for Minnesota, especially in the fourth quarter. He really gave them a chance to win that game. And you saw just kind of what he's done in terms of improving his mid-range game, his off-the-dribble scoring. Everything has gotten better. And I did see a stat yesterday. It's Edwards has increased his scoring, but also his, true shooting percentage in every single year that he has been in the league, which is just really hard to do. And what a special player he is. But at the same time, it showed you he needs a little bit of help in the backcourt. And I think that, we talked about this a little bit, but I think that Tim Connolly is going to find it for him. I don't know if it's going to be the trade for Kobe White that I've talked about a little bit, or if it's going to be a smaller trade like one for Colin Sexton. But I do think they're going to add a rotational piece at the guard position. So that is why I view Minnesota as a potential contender in the NBA this year. It's why I've taken the Timberwolves to win the West at 40-1. It's why I took them to win the title at 25-1. I'm really impressed with what I've seen from this team on the court this year, but I also think that there's some help coming in the near future. And then the last thing I think that's worth mentioning is the Knicks with another bad loss, losing at home the other night to the Suns in a game where, Jalen Brunson did not play, so hard to take much from the loss, but this team has lost 8 of its last 10 games. And I think that, it's easy to kind of throw things out and say, Brunson's been out of the lineup. You've had guys in and out of the lineup all year, but the vibes seem pretty bad in New York. Mitchell Robinson's, putting a lot of things on social media that, you kind of worry about him. And Karl Anthony Towns' defense has been a complete nightmare, and you kind of see him complaining about his touches a lot. And it's just, very, very different from where things were at the start of the season. I do think they will figure it out, and I do think they're going to win today. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but they're playing a really beaten up Mavericks team. But they really need to start getting healthy, and they might need to address some things at the trade deadline with maybe looking to package some things together and add another rotation piece. But yeah, it's really weird to see this team losing as much as it is, because I thought this team was like as good as it can get in terms of an Eastern Conference team in the regular season, but it's been a bit of a grind lately. Let's start with tonight's games, though. I don't really want to waste too much time. Like I said, we have one at 1 p.m. Eastern, so we'll start, right away talking about that one. But I'm going to skip 2 games for tonight. I'm going to skip the Clippers and the Wizards. Like I said, no Kawhi Leonard. I don't know what we're going to see from this Los Angeles team, so I would rather just not, even get into that game at all. And then Jazz Spurs is another skip for me because Lauri Markkanen is out for Utah, and it's a game with a really big spread. The Spurs are 16.5-point favorites, and I just don't have much to say about that one. So Bucks Hawks is where we begin. The game is in Atlanta, where Martin Luther King Jr. was born, and it's tips at 1 p.m. Eastern. The Hawks are 2.5-point favorites. Total 231.5. And this is a game where I really have a strong lean on the Bucks, but what I ended up doing here is I parlayed the Bucks on an alternate spread of +8.5 with the Sixers money line against the Pacers. And I'm not going to talk much about that game. I'll quickly just say this is a game where Embiid and George are questionable for Philly. Never really what you want to see, but at the same time, 2 full days of rest for Philly. This is a 3rd game in 4 nights for the Pacers, and I do think that the rest spot just lends itself really nicely to the Sixers. And I think that even if those 2 veterans end up missing this game, I think you get enough from Maxey and Edgecombe in a home game to win that one. So I think that the Sixers money line is a really good kind of money line parlay anchor for tonight. And then the reason I have the Bucks and the reason I took the extra 8.5, instead of the 2.5 is this is a Bucks team that has not played since Thursday. So really, really good rest situation for them. And I know that they've been absolutely blown out the last few times that they've gotten on the court, but I do think this team is a little bit better than they've shown lately. And I think that, when you're playing an Atlanta team that will be missing Dyson Daniels potentially, and already will be missing Kristaps Porzingis and Zachary Risachet, you're talking about a team that's kind of lacking in depth, and it's a team that I think has struggled since making the Trae Young trade. And, maybe that has nothing to do with Young, but bringing McCollum in has kind of changed, the pecking order there in terms of touches. And we've kind of seen Jalen Johnson struggle a little bit since McCollum's been thrown into the rotation, which isn't that surprising. McCollum is a good player, really good offensively still, but he does need the ball in his hands, and just kind of changes everything for this Hawks team. And when you don't have Risachet or Porzingis, you're missing some of your length on the defensive end. And if you are also missing Daniels, who is questionable, that's going to hurt even more. It's just going to make life a lot easier on Milwaukee, which, like I said, well-rested coming into this game, eager to get back in the win column. This team needs to kind of start winning some games in order to get into the play-in tournament in the East. And, Giannis is still there, and as long as Giannis is there, this team is going to be tough, and this team is going to be trying to win games to get into the postseason. So I think the Bucks have a chance of winning this game outright, but I took some extra points, and I did it by taking the Sixers money line in that parlay because I do view Philly as a very, very safe play on the money line. Let's move on now to Thunder at Cavaliers. This is a game that tips at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. The Thunder are 5.5-point favorites. The total's 233.5. OKC will be missing J-Dub tonight, also Isaiah Hartenstein, so not the greatest, situation for them in terms of the injury report, but at the same time, Cleveland missing Darius Garland and Sam Merrill. Those are 2 guys that have a lot of firepower. Garland off the dribble, one of the better scorers in the league, and also a really good playmaker, and just somebody that has a lot of offensive juice to take pressure off of Donovan Mitchell. So never good when he's out. And then Merrill's just one of the best 3-point shooters in the league and is really big to this team's floor spacing. But it is a game where, Cleveland's playing with 2 full days of rest. They're coming off that big win over Philly, and they've actually been really, really solid over the last 10 games. They're 7-3. Their net rating, I believe, is like plus 5.6. Just been just much improved from what we saw early in the year. And I don't really think that that's a fluke. I think that we're just starting to see the Pacers. The Cavaliers start to figure some things out. Sorry, that was 5.9 on the net rating. And I do think there's a chance that the Cavaliers keep this game close and potentially win it. I mean, we just saw the Thunder lose in Miami. So it's not a team that's, playing a lot better right now. We've talked about this team struggling a little bit lately, and they're 7-3 over the last 10 games. So the sky isn't falling, but it hasn't been quite the same as what we saw early in the year. And that definitely lends itself nicely to Cleveland in what is, the second of the 2 games on Peacock for today. Actually, there's a few more games on Peacock, but the second national TV game, or first national TV game, if the Bucks Hawks is Peacock only, I'm not sure, but it is a game where I expect the Cavaliers to stay close. But the play that I actually made in this game is Jalen Tyson over 14 and a half points at plus 100. I also sprinkled him to score 20 plus points. This guy has just scored, a lot over the last couple of games, like really taking advantage of playing without, some of those big guards in the lineup. He has scored 15 plus points in all 7 of the games that he has played without Sam Merrill and Darius Garland. He had 39 points against Philly the other night, and I don't think that he's going to score 39 points every time he plays without those 2, but I do think it's possible for him to score 20 plus in this game. I just think that, the Thunder, for as good as they are defensively, they're just 28th in the league guarding catch and shoot jumpers and 29th defending spot ups. And they're pretty weak guarding, every part of the 3-point line. That's at the corners, above the break threes, all of it. And Tyson is a really good shooter. He's also capable of creating for himself a little bit. And he's had 24 plus in each of the last 3 that he's played without Garland and Merrill. So I kind of undersold it a little bit with the 15 plus. And that's why I think the 20 plus is just very, very possible. I think that Tyson is a really good player, and it's a guy that I was really high on coming out of the draft. I do some draft stuff for Real GM, covering draft prospects, giving out, my rankings and all that. And I really liked Tyson when he was coming out. And I just think we're starting to see him put it all together, and it makes for some interesting conversations in the long term, because if this Cavaliers team does end up flaming out, I wonder if you do look to move, Garland and, just plug Tyson in as your long-term 2 next to Mitchell, maybe add some size on the wing, or just kind of reshuffle what your rotation looks like. But he's a really good player. I think he is a starting level player, and I think he'll have another good game tonight against the Thunder. Next game I want to talk about is Mavericks at Knicks. This is a game that starts at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Knicks are 10.5 point favorites. Total is 230.5. And this is another game that is on NBC and Peacock. The injury report for Dallas is disgusting tonight. Cooper Flagg is questionable. Not sure we'll see him out there, but no Anthony Davis, no Derek Lively, no Gafford, no PJ Washington, not even D'Angelo Russell. So 5 key rotation pieces out for the Mavericks tonight, plus potentially Flagg and a couple others. So definitely a really, really winnable game for the Knicks, who could be playing without Brunson and Hart. Both of those guys are questionable, but I would expect to see Brunson out there just because it was a minor injury, and this is a game that I do think that, New York is really going to want to win. But I don't have anything here. I don't really like to talk about double-digit favorites in the NBA or double-digit underdogs. I talk about that all the time on the podcast. But what I do have in this game is another play on the over for Najee Marshall at 15.5 points. Minus 108 were the odds that I got that at. This is a guy that scored 16-plus points in 5 of the last 6 games that he has played without Anthony Davis and PJ Washington. This Knicks team is not very good defensively. They're just 21st in the league in adjusted defensive rating. And I do think that this is a guy that's had a big role over the last couple of games. I mean, look at the last 10 games. His usage rate is 20.3. That's up from 17.5 over the course of the entire season. And if Flagg does end up missing this game for the Mavericks, and really there is no reason for them to rush him back. I mean, this is a really bad Dallas team. This is your prized possession, your number 1 pick from this year in the draft, and a guy that's looked like a future superstar. I don't know that you want to rush him back from any injury, but if he does not go tonight, that's an even bigger role for Najee Marshall, who, despite the fact that he's like not the most well-known player in the league and doesn't have, the most impressive bag offensively, like continues to go over his point totals. And I keep finding ways to play him, even though, like I said, I don't think he's the greatest player in the world, but somebody has to do something on every team. And it has been Marshall been doing a lot of the lifting for this beaten up Mavericks team. So I think he scores 16 plus tonight. I wouldn't be surprised if he scores closer to like 18 to 20 here. And I think this is a game the Knicks win, like I said. So if you're looking for another money line, team to throw into some parlays, I would say I feel really, really good about New York getting back in the win column, but nothing here in terms of side or total for me, and just the Najee Marshall player prop. We're getting ready for Big Game 60 with a big deal to match. Save $60 off a VSiN Pro annual subscription when you sign up using promo code HARDWOOD, all one word. Become a VSiN Pro annual subscriber. Bet smarter all year long with full access to our daily best bets from VSiN hosts and guests, real-time DraftKings and Circa betting splits, AI-powered prop tools and matchup analysis, 24/7 video and full show replays on the VSiN Watch app, plus all of our betting guides and expert picks for the Super Bowl, plus the upcoming March Madness. Don't miss out on this big game deal. Visit vsin.com/subscribe and use promo code HARDWOOD to save $60 off a VSiN Pro annual subscription today. That's vsin.com/subscribe and Hardwood, HARDWOOD. Like I've said, I do a lot of tennis here. I went 6-2 with my Australian Open plays last night, so feeling good about that. That's another reason to jump on the VSiN Pro subscription right now. I'm doing a lot of tennis. Gil Alexander, host of a numbers game, is doing a lot of tennis, and we just have a ton of college basketball coming up. I'll be doing a lot for March Madness, so definitely head over to vsin.com. Check it out if you like my work, but also all of my talented colleagues are doing plenty for every other sport. And then also all the stuff that we have on the network is awesome. I keep VSiN on 24/7 in my office. I just watch it like all day. So I'm always picking up nuggets from, our hosts and guests. It's the best channel in the world if you like sports betting. Like, it's just all we talk about. Like, what's better if you're a sports bettor? Let's now talk about the Suns at the Nets. This is a game that tips at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and this is actually another one where I don't have anything. But the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I do think that there's a chance that people are going to look at the injury report and kind of assume that you're going to see Devin Booker out there because he's listed as questionable. He played through his ankle injury against the Knicks the other night, but at the same time, this is the front end of a back-to-back for the Suns, and I just wouldn't be that shocked if they held him out for this one because tomorrow night's game is against the Sixers. I think that's a bit of a tougher game for Phoenix, and at the same time, Michael Porter Jr., who missed last game for Brooklyn, will be back out there for this game. Like, he was only resting because it was the front end of a back-to-back for the Nets. He wasn't injured or anything, so I just kind of wanted to mention that, like, this isn't the worst spot in the world for the Nets, even though it is the second leg of a back-to-back. It's their third game in 4 nights, and they did get beaten up by the Bulls last night. But at the same time, like I said, Porter Jr. will be back out there. That's like a borderline all-star this year, and not 100% positive we're going to see Devin Booker for the Suns. So 8.5 does seem like a lot, not knowing, his status. But I guess the one other thing that's really worth noting here, though, is that the Suns should be getting Jalen Green back tonight, unless they make the same decision with him that I think that they might make with Booker, and they opt to hold him out and try to win this game without them, and then go into Philly and play a tougher game with those two. But he is questionable. That is a huge upgrade for him, considering he has missed the last few months with a hamstring strain, one that he came back from temporarily, played parts of 2 games. He played 1 full game, absolutely lit it up for the Suns in a win, and then the next game he re-injured the hamstring, had to leave the court, and did not come back for a couple months now. So we're hoping to see Green back here in Phoenix. I am a Suns fan. I've talked about that a little bit on the podcast, and I think that Green's going to be awesome on this Suns team because Jordan Ott has proven himself to be an awesome X's and O's coach for Phoenix. Everybody on this team has really fit in nicely when thrown into the lineup, like whether that's a 10-day player, a G League quality player, or, a superstar, or, just a high-level rotation player. Pretty much everybody is getting the types of looks that they're looking for on offense. Everyone's playing connected on defense, and I just kind of think that Green is now a threat to really reach his potential in Phoenix because of how good of a coach Ott is. So really looking forward to seeing what Green looks like. I just wouldn't be comfortable laying 8.5 with the Suns tonight. The next game is probably my favorite on the card. It's the Celtics at the Pistons. This game tips at 8 p.m. Eastern, and the Pistons are 3.5-point favorites. The total is 224.5. And I actually put Detroit in on the money line at -140 last night. So another reason to be a VSiN Pro is you get access to our picks page. And sometimes I put stuff up a night early because, especially for a day like today where there are early tips, I just kind of wanted to get everything in early. And this is an interesting game because I'm really just not sure why the Pistons weren't favored a little bit bigger. I mean, the -140 isn't out there anymore, but you could still do all right with the money line price for them. And I still think it's a really good play because this is a team that's played Boston really well so far this season. And, some of those games have been in Boston. And I just kind of love the way that they match up against the Celtics because Boston is the number 2 team in the league offensively. They've been really, really good on that end of the floor, to kind of everyone's surprise, I think, because this is a team that lost a lot of players from last year's rotation and doesn't have Jason Tatum right now. But 120.7 adjusted offensive rating, like I said, number 2 in the league. And they've just been special on that end of the floor. But at the same time, Detroit is number 2 in the league in adjusted defensive rating. So something's got to give here. I think the Pistons are going to do a decent job defensively. on the Celtics as they have all season. And I think that, this is a really good matchup for Cade Cunningham in this offense. And Detroit this season is 13th in the league in adjusted offensive rating. Boston is 16th in defensive rating. So the Pistons kind of net out Rinky a little bit better, but the Celtics are actually a little higher when looking at adjusted net rating because their, offense is the best of all of the units, if you want to say it like that, like you talk about it like it's football. But I still think that this is going to be a game where we're going to see Detroit do really well defensively, and I think that their size inside is going to be a major factor because I love the way this Pistons team can go double big with like Stewart and Duren. And I think the Celtics, for, as good of the play has been this season with some of these kind of like wonky centers that they've found minutes for, like, Nemias Queta has been great this year. Luke Garza has been giving them some good minutes off the bench, but I'm not really, buying Luka Garza finding a way to, like really contribute against a big, strong, athletic front line for Detroit. And I think Cade Cunningham can get enough done offensively to get the Pistons across the finish line here. And I should also mention Celtics just 4-8 straight up under Joe Mazzulla as underdogs of 3.5 to 9.5 points. And, the Pistons are 3.5 point favorites at several shops. So that trend applies. And the Pistons are also 21-9 straight up when playing 4 or fewer games in 10 days. So they are very well rested coming into this one as well. So I think that Detroit will find a way to win this game. I still think Detroit has been the best team in the Eastern Conference to this point in the year, and I don't think they're getting enough respect in the market. And I should also mention, Pritchard being questionable, absolutely huge, because if that guy misses this game, you're talking about a Celtics team that is missing one of its best on-ball offensive creators, whether that's creating for himself and, knocking down off the dribble threes or hitting some tough mid-range jumpers or, setting some teammates up. Like, this is a team that has been great offensively this year, but at the same time, still, kind of lacking in overall shot creators outside of Jaylen Brown. So I know that Anthony Simons has had a couple good nights and he can definitely go off, in the right circumstances, but not a guy you absolutely trust. I think you need Pritchard out there if you're Boston and you want to win this game. The last game that I wanted to mention is the Heat at the Warriors. This is a game where the Warriors are laying, I believe it's 6.5. I'm refreshing here right now. Sorry. It is the Warriors minus 5.5 now at DraftKings Sportsbook. Total is 238.5. And this is a game where I don't have anything on looking at sides or totals, but I am kind of looking at Golden State as a money line parlay team. And, if the Bucks don't end up covering my 8.5 and I need to find other ways to throw parlays in with the Sixers, I might add something with the Warriors here. I mean, Golden State over the last 10 games is 7-3 with a plus 5.3 net rating. Miami, while they did win that game against Oklahoma City, just 5-5 with a minus 2.1 net rating. And Tyler Hero's out for tonight. I think this is going to be a tough game for the Heat to just kind of create efficient offense against a Warriors team that has been very, very good defensively. And, they are very good defending above the break threes. They can really run you off the 3-point line in general. And I just kind of wonder how Miami is going to go about creating offense in this game, because I do think that while this team plays at a very fast pace, like they do not have the most efficient offense in the world. And I do think you're going to see some stuff from like Norman Powell. I think Bam Adebayo, like these guys are going to create looks, but I don't know like how high the quality will be. And I do trust the Warriors to kind of just keep rolling right now because this team is healthy. I know the Jonathan Kuminga stuff is a bit of a nightmare, but this team is playing well. And I think at home, they should be expected to win, especially with this being their 7th consecutive home game. And they haven't played a back-to-back since early January. This is the front end of a back-to-back for them. So they will have to play on back-to-back nights tomorrow night. But I do think this team is really well rested, really comfortable being, at home for such a long time. And I think this is kind of a letdown spot for the Heat too, coming off that win over the Thunder. So I think it really sets up nicely for a Golden State win. I just don't know that I trust them to cover. I never really like betting against Miami when it's, 5.5 or plus points, just because Spoelstra is such a good coach. This team really never quits. Like they will not pack it in. Even if they're not playing well, they're going to keep fighting, and they do kind of execute well, at least on the defensive end pretty much every night. And it's just a tough team to fade. So I think the Warriors win this game. I think the Warriors are a team to look at if you're looking to make some money line parlays, but nothing for me there as of now. Before we recap with some of our best bets, attention any listeners who are new to VSiN, signing up for our free daily newsletter is a great way to catch up. Delivered straight to your inbox every morning, VSiN's newsletter offers picks, data, and strategies for the day's betting menu. Sign up for free now at vsin.com/newsletter and start receiving your free newsletter tomorrow morning. That's vsin.com/newsletter. Stay ahead of the game and bet smarter with VSiN. All right, well, let's recap the best bets that we have for tonight. I have 4 of them right now, so I'm really looking forward to this slate. It starts really early. I have a parlay with the Bucks alternate plus 8.5 versus the Hawks. I have the Sixers money line versus the Pacers in that parlay, and it's minus 130. I'm playing that to win 1.5 units. Also, I have Jalen Tyson over 14.5 points at plus 100. That's another play that I'm risking 1.5 units. And then I have an alternate for him to score 20 plus points, which is plus 400. I risked a quarter unit on that, so just a small sprinkle, nothing crazy, but I do think there's a chance he scores 20 plus in that game. And then Najee Marshall over 15.5 points at minus 108 versus the Knicks. And then the Pistons money line at minus 140 versus the Celtics. Like I said before, I threw a lot of these plays in last night, so hopefully you're able to get decent numbers when you're trying to tell me. But at the same time, like if you need to pay a few extra cents to do so, I would suggest doing it. I do think we're going to have a good day today, so hopefully we do end up getting back in the win column after a really, really brutal Sunday. It was a tough night for me last night, but I do think overall we've had a good season, and I think we're going to keep, winning here over the next couple of days. And hopefully today it starts early, like I said, with that game that tips at 1 p.m. Eastern. So definitely come back and check us out for tomorrow's episode of Hardwood Handicappers. Good luck with your bets today, and if you are off, enjoy the day.